Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Human Intelligent Dialogue. It's a pleasure to have you all back. Whether it's good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're listening in or watching us here, welcome back again. And as you know, your host, Dr. Edwin Marino, I am here to bring in different people from different walks of life under that human capital umbrella. And today we have the pleasure of having with us Mr. Rob Toomey, who's president of and co-founder of Top Coach. I'm going to give him an opportunity to introduce himself, but I think you're going to get some really cool value-added information in our conversation today. So, Rob, welcome to the show.
Edwin, it's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to our conversation.
Great, thank you. So, Rob, let's start off. Tell the audience a little bit about your background, how you got to the space that you're involved in, and what you're doing today.
Sure, I guess it goes all the way back to when my wife and I first met in college. She was a psychology major, I was a philosophy and English major, and we started talking about this world of psychology. And she had just encountered the world of personality type, thinking about it in terms of like the Myers-Briggs, that sort of traditional approach. I was initially very skeptical of the whole thing, but we started to see the pattern emerge among our friends and family. You could see extroverts and introverts. You could see these sort of elements of sort of consistency between different personalities. Anyways, I went off to law school, became a lawyer. She went off and became a teacher, and our career sort of went and did their things. But we never stopped talking about this particular topic. So after practicing law for 5 years with big law firms in Boston, it was time for a change. And we said, all right, our friends and family were telling us they can't sort of listen to any more of this personality type stuff. You got to go do something with this professionally. It's clearly a passion. At that time, we said, all right, how hard can it be to go after the Fortune 500? We're going to just pick up the phone and start calling them and do workshops with them. And, I think had we known how difficult it was going to be, we would not have done it. But here we are. We celebrated 20-year anniversary back in January of this year. It's changed a lot over the years from, us going and facilitating workshops to more of a platform. So right now, most of our revenue and activity is supporting people using our platform, which is focused on improving interpersonal communication.
Cool. So, Rob, you're like the John Grisham of sort of personality type, different type, because as you know, John Grisham went off, became a lawyer for a year, and took a different journey, and now we watch his movies too, besides reading his books.
Exactly right. Yeah. A career 90-degree turn.
That's yeah, exactly. So that's great to hear that you've, for the last 20 years have been watching some interesting things happen. So talk to me, fast forward to today. Obviously, you've seen a lot of things ebb and flow over the years, but what are you seeing now? What are some of the emerging trends that you're seeing from a human capital's perspective and for organizations in general?
It's actually been really fun for us in the last 2 or 3 years to watch the spotlight move closer and closer to where we've been for the last 20 years. So the advent of AI, as well as one other factor I'll touch on in a second, is pushing people to an appreciation for improving interpersonal competence. Boosting people's capacity to deal with humans across the table from them. And we're noticing that the AI is going to do a lot of the sort of more technical things, which is putting the spotlight on can you do the interpersonal piece. And then the other thing that I'll mention is we are noticing also the younger generation has had less exposure and experience to a lot of the interpersonal elements, and so upskilling them in this particular category has also become more of a priority for a lot of our clients.
It's interesting you say that. One of the things, as you know, my philosophy or my tagline, for lack of better words, is in the era of AI, you need HI, human intelligence. And ironically, as you know, I do some college teaching on the side too. The skill sets needed for the future are the people skills, number one. Number two, what I've also found or read and have seen it sometimes is the ones that have the least people skills are some of these college grads, coming right out fresh out of college. Not all of them, but some of them. So obviously that demand and need is going to continue and flourish even more going forward, particularly when we have multi-generational, multicultural, more of a globalization, all of that kind of stuff that's happening. It's going to be fascinating. Cool. So based on that, what are some solutions and strategies that you're helping organizations with that you're seeing make a difference?
So for us, it's very simple. We have to give people practical tools that they can use right away. So, if we introduce our programming, right, we'll start with the basics and describe extroversion and introversion. But it's not Rob helping Rob learn more about Rob. That's not really that useful. But if you can explain, well, Rob, as an extrovert, you're dealing with 50% of the population who are on the introvert side, and they do their best thinking when they have 2 to 48 hours to process complex information. Okay, what do I do with that? Right. Well, what that means is in a meeting, if you're expecting to get the best thinking out of your introverts, you need to give them that head start on their thinking. Right. So before the meeting, give them an agenda. So it's really practical things that if we can provide them, will improve those interactions as opposed to, the extrovert bias. Like I blast them with a question and I expect an answer back in 2 seconds, which is how I might operate. And they're like, I just started the clock. 2 to 48 hours from now, I'm going to be able to give you the gold.
Yeah, it's interesting, Rob. You and I were talking earlier. And then if I come in who's a morning person, I'm sort of middle depending on the audience. I can be an extrovert or I can be an introvert. But if I come in, I'm a morning person. But like you said, I'm not. So to your point, if I come in, I go, Rob, help me out here right away, and you're still trying to wake up.
Yeah.
That is not your best time. So that's good input. And I share that with people too. I said, if you ever have a problem where you have some time to think about it, plant the seed in your team
Mhm.
a week in advance and tell them if you get any ideas, come back and email them, call me, whatever, drop them off with me, and you'll be surprised how they'll go off and do their work, but they actually unconsciously are thinking about your question, your issue.
Yeah, and what's cool about that technique, that's exactly what we recommend, is that then gives you permission in the meeting to go around and ask people what they've thought about, right? Because you've given them a chance to do their preferred thinking. You can invite them into the conversation, and you'll be surprised at how much they participate. We made a programmatic change about 10 years ago by giving people a lot more information prior to our workshops. And we were surprised at how much it impacted the participation levels among the introverts because they'd had a chance to absorb and process the information before. They arrived with all sorts of questions and were ready to engage. Same thing that you're describing for the meeting that you're talking about.
Now, and these solutions, Rob, you were talking earlier about, and you and I had a previous conversation about this. How exactly do you help? And I know you invite HR and learning and development type folks to your audience. So explain that process for how do you help people out, help themselves, for lack of better words?
So it's a blend of online learning, online tools, and actual real life training. We are the first sort of to blend all those together, focusing on interpersonal communication because what you know, having done programs before in the past, is that if you just sit down for a half day and you talk this stuff through and you go back to work, people default back to their typical preferred behaviors. You really need to set in the learning multiple points of sort of contact with the learner and support them with training wheels, like which is in our case the online platform that allows them to go back to it, ask questions either of our AI or of the other sort of solutions in the platform, and say, I'm stuck in this situation. I know the personalities involved. Give me some advice. And that advice is going to come back and it's going to smooth things over. We find that, most of the conflicts that are happening within a team, whether it's just a basic miscommunication or a full blown, at each other's throat kind of thing, is either created by or magnified by the personality differences. So if you can put some language around that and then put some techniques and here's what you should do differently to navigate that, everyone gets happier.
Yeah, yeah. And interesting because you've mentioned something a couple of times in our conversation. So, where do you see the future of work? And by that, I mean, we got AI that's front and center of everything. We just had a conversation about that remote hybrid work, which also may complicate our communication. The whole workforce psychology, where people have different expectations of today's organizations and management and just the overall workforce evolution. Where do you see that headed?
So, two things come to my mind when I think about the future of work. The first is a lot of the technical stuff is going to be eaten up and done by AI. So if you're a really technical person who can, manipulate a spreadsheet better than anyone else, that's not going to be the career differentiator that it used to be. It's going to really turn back a lot to the interpersonal components that we're talking about, the human intelligence piece that you're describing. If you can't do that, you can't fall back on the technical skills, I think, the way that you used to. And the more going forward, everyone's going to have access to the same AI capacity in terms of output. That's number one. Number two is I think it's going to free people up to do work that's more in what I call alignment with their personality. And specifically, what that means is look at the things that your brain is wired to do, and how can you create a job or a role for yourself where you get to spend more than 50% of the average day using those natural gifts. And that is not a high percentage of people right now. Most people are spending, 15, 20% on a good day utilizing the stuff that really comes naturally to them. So for me, it's like ideation, imagination, creation, like what would the future actually look like versus moving into the sort of steps and the sort of how are we going to get there. Now, notice I said 50%. I'm not aiming for 100%. I'm still, even in a good day, doing a lot of stuff that's not sort of wired in for my personality. That's the nature of work. But if we can get it closer to that 50, 60% range, work doesn't feel like a chore. People start to look forward to, flexing the natural muscles that, they've been given, the natural gifts that they have, and now work becomes a lot lighter for that. That's my vision for the future of work.
Yeah, to your point, as I've told people in front of me, and particularly college students, find what you love and you won't work a day in your life because you're engaged in what you do. And to your point, part of that work, a large part of that work includes stuff that we've really, if we didn't have to do it, we wouldn't do it.
Mhm.
So where AI can help out is going to be beneficial. As a matter of fact, it's interesting because as you know, I write about trends. And so I was kind of curious because I keep talking with Dr. Nancy Santis about this and she uses AI quite a bit, kind of like you. So I said, I'm going to ask, and you have to be very specific. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to give me an article, 1,000 words, no more, specifically on these things, and what would they recommend, and who's doing it best. I went blow by blow, and by God, it came back with a pretty good article that I went and posted on my website. So I said, here's human capital trends from an AI perspective. This wasn't Edwin writing this. This was it. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. So if it can do that for you, what can't it do for you? And that starts to illuminate the areas where we're going to really have to sort of elevate ourselves. So we just did a piece of work with a sort of premier business school where a lot of the technical stuff that they used to teach is going to go by the wayside because AI is going to do most of that work. Well, what fills that void is exactly what we're describing, which is the how do I sit down and have a conversation with someone who's very different from me, and bridge the gaps and bring them along with what it is that we're suggesting. And that's a skill set that I think is going to be becoming more and more important.
It's interesting you say that because having been teaching for some time and taught here at Crummer for a semester, a couple of semesters, and at Rollins for a while, one of the things I've always watched is most MBA programs seem to have more of the business flavor to it and don't have enough of the human side of it. And it's going to be interesting to watch how those curriculums start to shift and evolve to, okay, it's not just about business strategy and quarterly dividends, but how am I taking care of that most expensive resource that we have, which is the human capital and those people coming in doing the work, in addition to the AI. AI is going to do its stuff, but what are these people and how they're getting along, how they problem solving, innovative, all those kinds of things that we need at the end of the day. So
That trend is well underway among the top schools. Yes, because they see it. And and they're also witnessing feedback from their graduates saying, this is what I actually needed to be prepared for the work that I'm actually doing. And that feedback is really valuable for them because, like, they want to have, as they've told us, we want to make sure that our leaders are leaving with the skills they need to be successful in the places that they're going, as opposed to just giving them a bunch of stuff that we think is valuable that doesn't turn out to be what they actually need in order to succeed.
which kind of gets at 2 points. One, when AI came on the scene, and I was reading about some schools and professors were freaking out because the students now are going to use AI to do their papers. I said, I am not worried about that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be policing these adults. The only ones you're cheating is yourself if you go use AI to write your paper. And I don't give exams. That's another thing. Because I tell them, I'm not here to help you memorize stuff. I'm here to help you critically analyze what we're in front of and how do we address this people issue, which is the hardest thing to do. Because accounting 101 has an answer at the end.
Hmm.
Organizational behavior does not. It depends on the scenario, and that's what you're all involved in. So, having talked about that, so what is some actionable advice you're giving to managers and employees, and particularly HR professionals? I know you're doing quite a bit of work with them too. What kind of stuff are you doing now?
Yeah, so for us, the we haven't really changed our tune. We're just getting a lot more notice. So, for the last 20 years, when we come in and we work with a team of people, The goal is to get them communicating more effectively, both within the team and to their external stakeholders. If it's to a group of leaders or executives, it's how can they sort of pull the different levers of the people they're managing to bring out the best. And it's all basic personality stuff. And then if we're working with salespeople, it's how do we create a profile of our customer's likely personality type, an individual person sitting across from me. And then how do I tailor my message so that I'm really resonating with what their priorities are? So it's tactical, practical, in the field kind of stuff. The difference now is everyone's paying attention to it in a way that they didn't used to. So our sales process is completely different. We don't have to educate them on what it is we do and why it's valuable. They're already asking us for it. And that's been the shift for us.
And I think you alluded to this at the very beginning. So, to kind of put a bow on that one, how do you see your product different from, and your tool different from, you mentioned Myers-Briggs, DISC, Hogan, and others out there that are out there? How do you see your tool being different?
Yeah, and it's actually why we give free access to everyone in the HR field because they have to see it to see the difference. So for us, like the primary things are an academic publisher is focused on the validity and reliability of an instrument, and the focus invariably tends to go at least 90% to helping an individual learn more about themselves. And while there's some benefit for that, unless they have a coach helping them actually implement those insights into action, very little happens. And the majority of the people that we talk to say, yeah, I went through all the things you mentioned, and they're in a drawer somewhere. I wasn't able to extract things that I could do differently in my day to day from the PDF. And that's our focus. The last 20 years, we've been trying to answer the so what. All right, I know about my personality, so what? What do I do with it? And that's the difference is if we can give people practical, tactical tools they can use right away. So like in our workshop, for example, we're actually having them profile people that they work with on a regular basis using the techniques we cover in the course. So can I spot whether this person is a detail-oriented, practical, focused on the here and now, or a big picture focused, future focused person? And I'm actually going to have them profile that person in the workshop so that they're learning the skill of identifying these traits in others based on sort of observable clues. And once we have that sort of skill set, well, that works for anyone. It doesn't just work for the people who are on my team who've been through some sort of assessment program. It works for anyone that I interact with, and it also spills over into the home context. We find that people perhaps right away are finding the most sort of traction with the methodology with their spouse and their kids and their friends and their family members because they see the elements in that context and then they try out some of the techniques and then they bring it back into the workforce.
Yeah, it's rather interesting. Not a novel idea, but some people thought the fact that, some of these tools, yes, help you in the workplace, but they also help you in your personal life. Because contrary to popular opinion, you don't leave your issues at home and you don't leave your issues at work. We take it with us wherever we go, type of thing. Rob, this has been really helpful. So what are some closing comments or thoughts you'd like to leave with the audience?
Sure. Well, so we're happy for anyone in the HR, L&D, or senior sales functions to go through everything. The platform basically is, giving you insight about your own personality so that you can then start to think about your team, your colleagues, your clients, your customers, whoever. Anyone can go through that for free as long as they're part of the decision-making function within our or a sort of target organizations. Just email me, rob@typecoach.com to learn more, and I'm happy to share.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. So there you heard it. Not only that, you're going to get his contact information at the end. You had it at the beginning. So do follow up with him. He said the magic word, free. It's a tool for you to go check it out and see, hey, is this something, number one, I'm going to learn about me and learn about others. But number two, do I want to bring this into the organization? Because organizations are constantly changing, having to adapt and change. And this particularly when 66% of change efforts fail. So how do you, Mr. Miss HR, help this organization really get productive and effective in that? And you got somebody in Rob and his organization that could help you out. So Rob, thank you again for your time. I sincerely appreciate all your information that you shared. And if you want to find out some more about it, I'm looking at his website. Excellent stuff out there. Go check him out. Again, thank you, Rob, for joining us.
Thank you, Edwin. Great questions. Enjoyable conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. We're glad that you stopped by to visit. We're in the business of helping organizations in the growing era of AI become more HI, and that is become more of a human intelligent workplace. And we do that in a variety of ways. We can do speaking engagements. I can come in and speak to you either at executive retreats, at offsites, keynotes, things of that nature, to kind of share with you some of the trends that are taking place and what the implications may be for your organization. Sort of in a way, put a mirror up to your organization and say, these are the things that are happening. Are you ready for them? Are you doing something about it? So that's just one way. Another way we do some work with organizations is through executive coaching, helping from VPs to frontline supervisors, those to soon to be in supervisory, high potential individuals, help them in their development. Also do leadership and team development work. And along with that, we use instruments to help organizations from a consulting perspective help themselves, whether it's the Human Intelligent Workplace Instrument or questionnaire to take a sense of, hey, how are we doing in this space? Also, organizational change readiness questionnaire. Are you ready for the changes? What are you missing based on some of this information? And lastly, we also look at leader behavior effectiveness questionnaires. How well are your leaders doing? How do they assess themselves? And how are the workforce assessing them too, whether it be 360 or others? So we're here to help, particularly in this ongoing changing era that organizations are facing, a time of uncertainty, a time where the workplace or the workforce is expecting different things. So hopefully you'll reach out to us and let us know how we can help you out. You can look at some of our information that we have out on our website, some of the various podcasts, some of the articles and videos that I've put out there. And hopefully those will percolate and create some thoughts and reflective moments to think about maybe we need to have a discussion with the Human Intelligent Workplace. Thank you very much.